Okay, we're recording. All right. Well, welcome to part 3, which is actually like part 5, but it's part 3 of our Sparkle Up training that we're sort of creating as we go along. If I could rewrite the training, this is how I would do it: is that sponsoring is part 3 and new consultant success is part 4, and then we're done. And because this is the fun part. Part 3 is the fun. So I believe that if you're going to go big in this business, and I don't care what your product is, I don't care if you have a touchstone or not, if you're focusing on your product, you're never going to grow an organization. You're never going to grow a team. You're focusing on your product. When we go to a party, the most important thing that we can do is identify what we are focusing on. And if it's jewelry, we're not going to grow a team. The way to grow a team is by focusing on people. It's all about the people. And I've been able to have this conversation with a few of you on this call already. And it has really helped me to understand the difference. So if I go and I'm focusing on selling jewelry, I'm thinking about how is it displayed? How's it looking? Am I writing up the orders right? Am I talking about it correctly? Do I know all the prices? You know, am I putting all the rose golds in one place and all the blues in another place? Am I doing it right? Am I showing the jewelry right? Am I talking about the deals? You know, that's focusing on the jewelry. But if I want to build a team, I'm going to have those things so simple that I don't have to think about them. And my focus is on the people who are trying on the jewelry and what those people are saying about their experience, what they're saying to each other, what they're saying to me, what my hostess is doing, thinking, saying, acting like. It's not about the jewelry at all. It's about the people in the room. When I go to a party, I'm given an opportunity to fish in a pond, all about the bait, which is the jewelry. I'm looking for the fish who want to hop into my boat. That's it, right? When I'm growing a team, it's about how many parties can I get so that I can fish in all of those ponds. That's why I'm looking to do a party in that town over there where there's nobody selling, and that neighborhood over there that has all those women living in it, because these are fresh new ponds that I can fish in with my gorgeous bait. And I get to know those women and I focus on them to see who wants touchstone crystal in their life for all kinds of reasons. Okay. Anybody here have an aha moment with what I just said? Did it surprise anybody? Yeah. It's huge. It is literally the single most important thing to understand if you want to grow a team and you go, well, why am I not growing a team? That's it. That's the pivotal platform. It's about people, not product. It's about fishing in a pond. That's it. Okay, so what I want to do is share my screen. And before I do that, any questions about that? Any comments?
I have one comment.
Yeah.
So I had one of my most successful parties this past Saturday.
Yay.
And I finally told myself not to worry much about putting necklaces on displays, because a lot of times customers don't want to take them off the displays. And I just went to using trays like you always do.
Okay.
Fantastic. Even just putting necklaces and bracelets on the table, laying them out instead of putting them up on a display. So I couldn't agree with you more. It's a pressure off of you. You know, you're not trying to set everything up again. And it was great. And people weren't afraid to take things off.
Nice.
So,
Right.
I mean, it's a great point that I think was my aha moment 2 years later.
You weren't ready for it. You weren't ready for it until that day. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I was always worried about everything looking pretty. And then I was like, you know, this is kind of stupid, because it shouldn't look pretty, right? It should be a mess by the end of the party. They should be trying it on. They should leave it somewhere. I mean, and it was one of the best ones. So
that's great. That's really nice. And that took the pressure off of you. So here's the question. So then how do you take your mindset from that sense of freedom to now focusing on the people and asking them questions? And that's what we're going to talk about next. Yeah. So let me, that's great. Michelle, thank you for that. I love it. I love it. That's a real shift. I totally get that. And was there anybody else who had something to comment on? Okay. Let me share my screen and go to what I think are probably your participant worksheets. And I just want to breeze through these. I have no idea what the 2 reasons to sponsor are. I don't have the cheat sheets in front of me. There are a million reasons to sponsor. I don't know what the company says that the 2 reasons are.
Oh, God.
There are 100 reasons. I mean, what might they be? Make money and have more fun? I don't know.
That sounds good.
Okay, those are good. Sponsoring has a win-win objective. That is key. So here's what's really interesting. Sponsoring has a win-win objective. Years and years ago, I thought, so I started with Southern Living at Home in 2000 and, I don't know, 1 or 2 or something. And I was convinced that if I was just cheerful enough, if I was smiley enough, if I gave enough information, if I was happy enough, if I was having a great enough time, that people would want to join my team. And boy, was I wrong, because I was making it all about me, about what my experience was looking like. Was I making it look good enough that somebody would be wanting to do this with me? Didn't understand that it's about the win-win. It's not about, is Betsy having enough fun to make it look like somebody else would want to do it? That was a huge aha. And so after a while, it did shift into this concept that Zig Ziglar has to share, which is you can have everything you want in life if you'll help enough other people get what they want. And that turned the attention to everybody else. And this is where it's a win-win objective. And honestly, it's them winning first and me winning second, because it's never about me. And the only way to grow through our leadership program is to add new team members continually, to sponsor new team members continually. So let me ask you a question. What are your hesitations to sponsoring? There are a lot of them, but I'd like to hear you voice what they would be.
Hi, Betsy. This is Patricia.
Hey, Patricia.
Hello. I think one of my big fears, so this month, January, it's my 1 year of being with Touchstone.
Yeah, great.
And so I'm kind of doing a relaunch of I just did a training with Liz just to go over everything again. And
nice.
I think my biggest fear with the last year is that I got nervous with this conversation because I felt like I didn't know enough. So how can I teach someone else?
Right.
Or what if I don't know all the information, if they ask me and then, because I don't know, then they won't want to stay.
Sure. Okay. That's very common. I can understand that. You feel like you're the teacher. You're supposed to be their leader, and therefore you need to know it all. That's understandable. Yeah. Who else? Thank you for that. Hesitation or a fear? Anybody have a fear about sponsoring?
I wouldn't call it a fear. I think it was more a time commitment for me. And along with what Patricia said, I didn't feel like I knew enough. It was so different and new for me. I didn't want to be not knowing.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. Okay. So
I think, Betsy, that you don't know whether they are serious about running the business or running the kid.
Okay. That's a very good point. Right. It's really true. We don't know what their intentions are, do we? Right. And this is where I think you're really going to like what we're going to be talking about a little bit.
Okay.
So the concept, first of all, is that sponsoring is not about you and what you need. It's about what the other person is looking for, about what they might need. And that becomes, that is something that we have to continually tell ourselves is true until it becomes true for us. Because the shift from it being about me to it being about another person is not always an immediate one. And so so you're going to have to keep reminding yourself, this is not about me, this is about her. This is not about me, it's about all of them. It's not about me, it's not about me, it's not about me. And the heart of leadership is, I don't know. I don't know what the company says the heart of leadership is. What do you think the heart of leadership is? I mean, I know what I think it is. I don't know what the company says I think it is. Who has an idea?
Hey, Betsy, I don't know if my microphone's working. Is it? Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's a miracle.
Oh.
I think the heart of leadership is watching your people grow and succeed. To me, that's the best part of it.
That's great. I love it. Tell me about it. I love it. Yeah. Great. Anybody else? Heart of leadership? What would it
Helping
say?
other people fulfill their dreams and seeing in them what they didn't see in themselves, like what Betsy does for all of us.
I do. I see so much in each one of you when I talk to you. It's really fun. Yeah. But again, it's not about me. It's about you, right?
It's, you look past all the junk, Betsy.
Yeah.
You don't see any of the junk.
No. Because the junk is irrelevant. We all have that. That's
But you
irrelevant.
learn how to look past all the junk.
Yeah. 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 Show you, hopefully you can look in the mirror and see what you're capable of. That's the heart of leadership. It's leading people to discover who they really are, what they're capable of being. It's such a beautiful thing. The really cool thing is that we get to do this with a little bit of a system now within Touchstone Crystal to make it easier for ourselves. So let's talk about this a little bit longer. Developing a sponsoring mindset. How many of you offered the consultant opportunity to everybody at your party? And has anybody ever done that?
Nope.
No. Any reason why? There are lots of reasons why, but I'm curious.
I think it's because we're always looking to book the next party.
Yeah.
So we talk to everybody about, oh, do you want to do this? Would you like to have a party?
Mhm.
But we don't. So we start at the party level. We don't start at the consultant level.
Right. Makes sense.
You know, I think too, people are afraid of being too pushy.
What does pushy mean?
And
Like, what does
well, you know, trying to force somebody to do something that they don't want to do. But how do you know if you don't ask?
that mean? Right. So is asking or telling, which is pushier?
Well, I think it's more telling
Okay.
the benefits of everything and not again, I hate the word pushy, but you know, people think of sales like a smarmy used car salesman.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with used car salesmen,
Yeah.
but
Right.
you know, it's as if you're trying to push things on them, and you don't care about them. You see them as a sale, as a number. So it's about making sure that they know that it's not about pushing them to do something that they might not want to do. But I think Shanna said it earlier, you know, like allowing them to see their potential of what could happen, and you know what could happen when they take this leap of faith.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's really well said. One of the keys to not being pushy is, well, first of all, if you're afraid of being pushy, you never will be. The people anyone who says to me that that's never occurred to them, they're the ones I worry about. But anyone who says to me, I'm so worried about being pushy, I promise you, you will never be pushy, because you probably you wouldn't even come anywhere close to it. The interesting thing about being pushy is that if we have the perspective that all I'm trying to do is plant a seed, not convince anybody of anything, but plant a seed at this party, and B, I'm using questions to diagnose their level of curiosity, then I'm not going to be pushy. Those two things are critical. So I'm not going to the party looking for a soapbox. I'm not going there so that I can pontificate about why Touchstone Crystal is for all of you, because it isn't. What I'm going there for is to have brief, smart conversations with women to test the waters, to dangle the bait of the business in front of them to see if anybody bites, to see who bites. And you have to know what you're looking for, right? And the questions are everything. The questions are everything. And so the goal is not to convince anybody at the party. It might happen. I've had it happen a few times. Has anybody here had anybody sponsor at a party? Like just jump right in. Laura, you have.
Mm-hmm. I have.
Two. I have two. And the interesting thing is that they're not always the best because it's such a knee-jerk reaction. Like, I've got to do this kind of thing. Usually it takes up to 8 or a dozen conversations. I want you to think about it this way. Typically, you're going to meet somebody at a party, and we'll talk nuts and bolts about what this looks like in a minute. But typically, you meet somebody at a party, and you've been pacing with her the whole evening, kind of getting to know her, just watching her, seeing what she's doing. You chat with her. She has a little bit of interest in this. She's curious. I'm starting to get away from the word interested and using the word curious. Like, curious is a far better word, I think. A little bit about, she's a little curious, right? And the goal is to toss, and so here, I love animals, so I'm using more animal analogies. You know, you're not going to catch a bird by throwing on the bird seed on it and grabbing it, right? I'm not going to do that at the party. I'm going to keep tossing seed, to see if I can get her to come closer to me. So if she's a bird and I'm just tossing a seed and I'm tossing one more seed to see if she's inching toward me out of curiosity, that is a successful sponsoring conversation at a party. Then the goal is to continue the conversation later. I might end up having 10 back and forths with her over the next year about the business. And then she eventually joins when the timing is right. Or it might be in sort of a classic format that we're going to talk about is then we talk the next day, I plant more seeds. I toss more seeds in her direction to see if she's still coming toward me, right? I'm not throwing seed at her all the time going, don't you want it? Don't you want it? Right? Trying to snag her. That's not it at all. It's tossing to see what her level of curiosity does. And we do that with questions in a lot of cases. And any thoughts about that?
Betsy, what I like to think about is the push versus the pull energy. And you want, same analogy with the birdseed, you're wanting to attract people to you versus pushing onto them, because people have a natural like defense that someone's coming on like that. But if you're pulling instead by asking questions and honestly not having an agenda, I think people pick up on that. The other thing I always want to say is my goal is never to persuade anyone of anything. All I'm doing is sharing information and seeing if it might be a fit for them. But I never want to persuade someone to do this business. I just want them to have some information and maybe pique their interest, like you said.
Exactly. And to pique their curiosity. It is incredibly true that no one comes to a party looking for a business. They don't know what they don't know. When they walk in, they don't know that there is a viable, vital, exciting business opportunity available to everybody that night. They have no way of knowing it. And so my goal is to offer it in my why story, in the things that I'm saying as I'm doing the party, the things that I'm modeling, the fun that I'm having, the Q&A, or however I do my presentation about the business opportunity. I want to model it in a really simple way so that it's appealing to them. But then I have to start asking questions to see what their level of curiosity is based on what they just saw. Because they didn't walk in, they walked in with like knowing nothing, a blank slate. They didn't know that there was bait, right? And now I want to know, what are they doing with the bait? Are they interested in the bait that I just put out there? I'm going to toss a little more bait out there when I'm talking to them individually. And that's why the individual conversations are way more important. Everybody, including myself, has walked away from a party going, well, I did my why story. I did my Q&A, according to the way the company says to do it. And nobody was interested, right? Meaning nobody rushed up to me and said, I must have this thing of which you speak, right? Nobody did it. So nobody's interested, right?
Right.
Wrong. That's what's really funny is that we walk out of there going, oh, I failed. I wasn't convincing enough. Or I wasn't appealing enough. Actually, you probably did a great job planting all those seeds, putting all the bait in the water for the fish, right? You just didn't know how to harvest it. That's all. You just didn't know. Here we go. Now as a farming analogy. I gotta find one analogy and stick with it. I can't. There are too many good ones out there, people. And so we have to learn what are the key questions. I think the key for each one of us is to find a couple of sort of catchphrases that are easy for us to say. The things that are comfortable for us. What's comfortable for me might not be comfortable for Debbie or for Patricia or for Michelle or for Becca. And I get that. But for me, it's probably going to be something like, would you ever think about doing what I do? Or I sure would be thinking about doing what I do because I think you'd really have fun. And I don't usually say somebody would be great at it because to me that feels disingenuous. To me, that feels pushy. If somebody said, oh, you'd be great at this, like, how do you know? Because I'm kind of skeptical about people. Having been in sales for a long time, I'm like, yeah, you're selling me. I don't want somebody thinking I'm going to sell them. But if somebody says, I think you'd have fun, I'm like, oh, she thinks I'd have fun? Oh, well, I like fun. I like fun, right? We all want fun. So if I say, I could be wrong, but you might really have fun doing what I do. That might be my line. It just depends on the person and the moment and her personality. If she's sassy and hilarious and we're already cutting up, I might say, girl, you have got to come do what I do. You have absolutely got to talk to me about joining my team, right? But I'm not going to say that to the shy wallflower who I fell in love with and who loves the jewelry. I'm not going to say it like that to her. I'm going to be very careful about how I pose this to at least, because what I want to do is look for a flicker in her eye of recognition, like, oh, really? Maybe that would be fun. Or she shuts down. Maybe she'll shut down and look away and walk away. I need to let it go, right? So I might be around the table playing with the jewelry and she's been playing with the jewelry and she's all over and I've got to have it all. How many of you seen somebody who's like, I have to have all of it? Mm-hmm. Right? You've all seen that. And then we're going, oh, right? We're all excited and we throw up all over her, right? We can go to coffee, we can go to Glam Jam together, we can get trips and we can be roommates and, we throw up. Did it for a million years. But the fun, right? It's what we want to do is we want to just tell her everything. Oh my gosh, she'd be so good at this, right? And it's all true, and we're so excited. But in reality, we want to breathe a little and find out a little bit about her. Have you ever done anything like this? You've got a little bit of a knack at this. If she's somebody who's doing it all at the table, she's doing really well at the table or something. And then she'd be like, no, I've never done anything like that. Oh, really? Well, why not? And just gently asking questions and then walk away. Change the subject. We don't have to go 5 questions in a row, beating her down to get answers out of her, right? You can be intentional and casual at the same time. It's a little bit of a finesse, but again, it's like the seeds, like the bird. We're back to the birds again. Sorry. We're back to the birds. We're tossing seed. We're not pelting her with seeds. We're tossing a couple just to see what kind of a response we get. There's a dynamic that we're watching for to see if she follows me a little bit in the conversation. If I walk away and if I plant a seed, we have a lot of young moms in our company. I don't know if this would ever be fun for you, but there are a lot of young moms in our company doing what I do. Something to think about. And then I will change the subject before she can even answer me. I don't want her to feel uncomfortable. And I'll say, wait, you were asking about the rose gold. Let me show you that. I've planted the seed and I'm literally walking away. I'm changing the subject from that. But then I'm coming back to her. And I'm going to say, hey, Lori, I mentioned to you earlier about the idea of this business. I mean, is this ever something that you would think about doing?
Not in a million years.
Oh no, that's so funny. Why not?
I don't like to sell to people.
Oh, okay. I can understand that. Yeah. I don't know. You were just really good around the table. I just thought it seemed like you were having a little bit of fun. I know you mentioned that you just quit your job and you were staying home. I just wondered if there was something that you would be looking for to do.
Well, the jewelry is a lot of fun. I mean, this is fun. This is fun.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd be concerned about trying to get parties from my friends and stuff.
Yeah, honestly, that's the number one reason that people don't try things like this. I totally get that. Yeah, I get it. And then at that moment, I might actually just let that sink in and change the subject. Because I just told her that's what everybody thinks. What you just thought, Lori, is what everybody thinks. Right? Instead of trying to answer her, oh, but when I find myself saying, oh, but I have to watch it because now I'm pelting her with seeds. That means I'm throwing stuff at her. Right? Now, there is a time to handle objections, but that's when you're having a real sponsoring conversation. You're trying to help her work through if this is a good fit or not. And so I might come back to her and say, I know you said that you would never want to sell anything, and this might not be a good fit for you. I don't know. It's a really good phrase. This might not be a good fit for you. I don't know. Because if you can say that to somebody, you will have totally disarmed them. This might not be a good fit for you. I don't know. And now she knows it's okay to take a step forward. If she has any curiosity, she'll now take a step forward. And I'm dead serious. I don't know if it's a good fit for her. I don't know. Only she can ever know if it's a good fit. That is never up to me to say. All I can do is lead the conversation. If, as far as she's willing to go in the conversation, lead it and see how far we get. And it may be that the fit is not there tonight, tomorrow, next month, but the fit might be there in 6 months. It might be there in a year. Anybody here have somebody join after a year of talking to them?
Or 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years. Right.
Somebody say 6 years. Oh,
Yes.
wow.
Yes.
That's persistence. That's awesome.
It was 6 years from the time I first seen Touchstone till I joined with Kathy.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny.
And multiple parties.
Yes, parties. But see, and isn't that interesting, is that this is why we always want to keep, and this is a little parenthesis in my training tonight, I want you to think about this. You are building a pipeline of names and people, because if you've got curious people, the timing might not be right, but that doesn't mean they're not still curious, right? Curiosity and timing don't always coincide. Curiosity might never go away as long as we don't puff it out. Okay, here's another metaphor. Is a fire. Lori, I think, Lori, were you and I talking about this? I know.
Yeah.
It's like all about nature.
Oh gosh, wait. You were supposed to wear something. What were you going to do tonight? You were going to do something funny. You were going to wear a hat of some. What were we talking about, puffing? Oh, the cigar. You were going to have the cigar. Remember, we were joking about puffing.
Right. So puffing on a spark. So we're all about nature tonight. So here's the really fun concept is that if you've got somebody who's curious, you want to keep her on a list. I call it a pipeline for lack of a better word, but to me, she's like a little, my brain always goes to imagery, and so you'll have to get used to me. But I picture a little campfire, a little spark, a little ember sitting out there, like my friend Diane, who I really want to come back to the team. She's a little ember sitting out there, and I'm puffing on her, right? But I've never built a campfire. Come on, people, work with me. So here's the thing, because I have a fireplace over here that burns real wood, and so you have to puff on the fire a little bit to get it to go bigger, right? And so I'm always puffing on the people in that pipeline, because I want to see. It's like I'm tossing seed at them all the time. I'm not throwing seed at them. Like, why aren't you starting? Right? I'm tossing seed constantly, and it might go on for years. I stay in touch over time with just fun stuff to remind them of why they were curious, not to give them reasons not to ever join my team, right? Okay, so Lori, let's continue our conversation, and let's say we're at checkout and we're about done. Lori, I love your list, and you know, this may not at all be anything you're interested in. You know, I have no idea if this would ever be a good fit for you, but would you be interested in taking some information home about what we do, just to look at?
Yeah, I'll take some information home.
Okay. And would you have any interest in chatting about it, just in case you have questions and you have some, even a little bit of curiosity? Like I said, it may not be a good fit, but would you be interested in just chatting tomorrow for a couple minutes?
Well, tomorrow's really busy for me, so I don't think I could do it tomorrow.
Okay. Okay. Would it be okay if I text you later in the week just to see if, you know, after you slept on it? So I call it the pillow test, where people are like, oh, no, I would never in a million years do that. Or suddenly there's a little bit of a brewing curiosity. Is it okay if I just follow up with you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. All right, thanks. Well, let me give you this little thing to take home with you, because it does have some information about what really sets us apart as a company, just in case, you know, you have any curiosity about it. I know you said you don't want to sell anything, and I totally get that, but you know, you weren't exactly selling anything around the table when you were doing all that jewelry nonsense with me either. So something fun to think about. Okay, let me work on your order real fast. So then tomorrow or the next day, I'll text her and I'll thank her for her order, and I'll tell her how much I enjoyed meeting her. And then I'll say, I'll text her with, did you give it any more thought, what I was mentioning to you? Like I said, it may not be at all a good fit, but you seem to have a lot of fun around the table. And then she texts me back. So what does Lori say back to me after that?
I was just saying she texts you back, or she doesn't.
Or she doesn't. And if she doesn't, I check in with her again after her jewelry arrives.
Right.
See how she likes it.
Keeping it real.
Yeah.
Sorry, what we're role playing?
So I texted you to say thank you. So nice to meet you. Appreciated your order. Let me know if you picked up the information that I gave you and if there's any spark of curiosity.
I looked at it briefly. I'm just not sure now is a good time. I just have so much going on right now.
Yeah, totally get it. Okay. Is it okay if I check back with you in a few months just to see if there's anything that changes?
Yeah, sure.
In my list, on my pipeline.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, at any point you're like never, and I never want to hear from you again, that's okay too. But you know, you were awfully cute at the table, and you know, something else to think about is maybe think about doing your own party sometime soon, because you get a lot more free jewelry. You loved it all, and then you can see for yourself a second time around if it's a good fit. So, by the way, parenthesis, one thing that I'm doing these days is voice texting. And Linda Avulitis gave me this idea last week, and I've been doing a lot of it this week. It's been really cool. Where even on texting or on Facebook Messenger, there's a little microphone bar, and you hold it down and you can leave a message that's your voice. So they actually hear you talking, but it's not a phone call, which is kind of cool. And I'm finding that I'm getting fast responses from people when I'm leaving these messages like this, because then I'm not texting, it's my actual voice. So very interesting piece of technology, and I'm really liking it. So I'm getting a lot of immediate replies back about parties and things like that. It's pretty cool. So just so you know. Okay, so in that case, Lori was like, yeah, not so much. So my goal is to keep her in the pipeline, very sweetly keep reaching out to her, see if she wants a party. If there's a new kit, you know, offer, just check in to say, you know, hope you're doing great, thinking about you. Let me know if, you know, if you'd like to do a party sometime, or you want to shadow me to another party or whatever. So I'm just going to keep her in the loop. So let's say Lori was more positive. So I'm checking her out, and no, I'm not checking her out, but I'm I'm doing.
We have a little wine.
No.
I think I'm blushing.
It has been such a long day. I know, I'm really punchy. So, okay, so Lori, I know I mentioned around the table about whether you'd be curious to know anything more about what I do. Can I send you home with a little bit of information about our company?
Yeah, I'd like to find out a little bit more.
Okay. Have you ever done anything like this before?
Well, way back, I briefly was a Norwex consultant, just like a hot minute.
Sure. Yeah.
Mostly just for the discount.
Okay. So you weren't in it long enough to get good at it or anything.
Right.
Okay. Got it. Why don't I give you a little bit of information, because since you kind of understand how these companies work, this will give you some more information about how we're different from Norwex and some other companies. And then would it be okay if I followed up tomorrow with you just to see what questions you bump into? Is that all right?
Sure.
I do most of my phone calls like late morning. Can I text you and then give you a quick call late morning or so?
That works.
Okay. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. And then I would say to her, if you were to ever get back into something like this, what would be the reason?
That's a good question.
Just out of curiosity, if you were ever to get back into something like this, what would be the reason?
I would definitely like to be bringing some side income in, extra income in.
Okay. So that's what we could actually talk about tomorrow. And I could tell you what the incomes are like and how much we make per party and that kind of thing. It won't take very long, maybe 10 minutes or so, just to noodle on it for a few minutes. So I'll look forward to talking to you tomorrow.
Okay.
So here's what happens. So, these conversations, obviously people are throwing their orders at you. They're like, I gotta go. You know how crazy that gets. And so that's like perfect world kind of a conversation that I'm having, but it's not an impossible thing. And it can be even faster than that, because you might have already prefaced it at the table, because you've got 2 hours with these women. And our goal, remember, we're not there to sell jewelry. We're there to talk to women. And so we're spending time talking to women while we're selling the jewelry, right, as our bait. And so by the time we do the checkout, we may have already had a little bit of that conversation up to that point. So now here's what I want to show you. So this is where it gets fun. This is part of what I was sharing with you. And this is some of the new stuff. Okay. Okay, there we go. Sharing. Let me find the sponsoring conversation outline and the actual conversation is what two of the things that I posted in the group yesterday. So the sponsoring conversation is what we do the next day. So the goal is to basically take a couple minutes, right? What I'm saying to her is my goal is to get to know you a little better and see if we can figure out if Touchstone might be a good fit for you. Sound good? Okay, that's it. That's what I'm going to say to her. My goal is to get to know you a little bit better and see if maybe Touchstone might be a good fit for you. That's it. And then I'm going to ask her a little bit more about her briefly. What do you do? Where do you work? Where do you live? Do you have kids? Are you married? Blah, blah. Have you ever done anything like this before? For me, that is a huge question. Have you ever tried anything like this before in the past? Because I want to know. Because think about it. If she has, it might have been a plus or it might have been a negative. We don't know if it was a positive or a negative. We don't know if she's a perennial direct seller, right? She might have been with all health and wellness products, which is a very different pay structure and a very different type of selling. So you got to really identify what was she doing and what kind of a company was it? How long did she do it? What was she good at? What was her greatest success in that? So it's funny because we tend to go to the question of why did you quit, right? But think about it. If we ask the question, why did you quit? What did we just do to her mood?
Really?
What did we just remind her of?
So she's a quitter.
And also what she hated about it, right? Right? Why wouldn't we say, what did you love about it? What were you really good at? Oh, you're with Norwex. Great. What were you really good at? What did you love about it? What drew you to it? Right? We want to get her back up on that emotional high. Not that we're not trying to manipulate anything, but we're trying to remind her of what was good when she was doing another company in the past, or several. Maybe she was with several, and you say, what was your favorite? Which one did you do best with? Which one did you thrive in? We want to get her thinking, oh yeah, this was good. I was really good at getting great attendance at my parties, like whatever, right? We want to find out what she was good at, because we want her to be heard, okay? Then we start talking about appeal, like why is she curious about this? So from what you know about Touchstone so far with what I gave you, what appeals to you the most? Is it the income, the jewelry, the travel, the fun? What would it be? What would be most fun? What would be most appealing for you? Will be the income. If she says income, how much income? What would you use the money for? If she says jewelry, what do you love most about our jewelry? How big is your wish list? If she says, I want travel, would you like to learn how to earn a trip for one or for two? Who would you take with you? Where have you traveled before? And if she says, well, I just want to have some fun, what would be most fun for you about this? How often would you want to do parties? So this is the key, is that what we're trying to do is ask her questions. So when she says income, we're not going to go, oh, you can make that, We're not going to dive in and throw bird seed at her. We're going to ask her some more questions first to understand what she needs. If she says jewelry, we're not going to throw up on her about the jewelry. We're going to ask her more about the jewelry. Okay, same thing. Now, so would you like to talk more? This is really important. Would you want to talk more about how this might work for you? Or would you just like to know how people get started? Here's why we do this. And I'm going to stop here for a second and explain this. Did I stop sharing? Okay. There are people who go to a car dealership and they have to read every single label on every single car. They have to read the manual. They have to know how the engine works, what kind of braking system it is, what size the blah blah is, how big these other things are, like, right? Before they will ever purchase a car. And y'all are laughing, right? Okay.
Right.
So who's like that in this crowd? Who does that in this crowd? Okay. How many of you, and Wendy, you just did that with your new car.
I had to have.
Right. You did all the research. What about those of you who go, you go, I like the blue one. It has 4 wheels, a steering wheel. It looks really pretty. It goes really fast, and I can afford it, and it's blue, and I want that one. Okay. It's the same thing with this. So you ask her, do you want to know more about Touchstone Crystal, or do you just want to hear how people get started? Right? Because she might have a million questions, or she might just want to know, what do you do to get going? Even at that moment. Okay. And if we're boring her with a million facts, and she's the one who just wants the blue car with the 4 wheels, then we might lose her. Right? So again, we're asking a question. Okay. Let's go back to this thing again. Okay. Were you all seeing this before? Could you see it before?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. So just if you ever can't see when I think I'm sharing, Lori was kind enough last week to go, are you sharing? And I was fine. I thought I was. Yeah. Okay. So would you like to talk more about how, so meanwhile, now I've gone through all this, right? So do you want to talk a little bit more about how Touchstone would fit into your life, answer questions for you, or you just want to know how to get started? So now she's going to say, I just want to know how to get started. And you say, great. And we end up diving in and we create her personal action plan and we order the kit. Do you have 20 minutes right now to do that? No, not right now. Then you say, okay, great. If you got When do you have 20 minutes in the next, little bit? Is it later today, tomorrow morning, that kind of thing? Make an appointment. I'm going to show you this training in a minute, but this dovetails into what we're going to talk about next week. So if she's ready to get started, then we say, okay, great. Our next step is to create your action plan that's just for you, and then we're going to order your kit. Do you have 20 minutes right now? And if she says, yep, great, then we'll create the plan, and I'll show you that in a minute. Now, if she does it, and she's like, well, I'm not sure if I have enough time. Totally understand. And I say, you know what? That's really normal concern, and I can help you answer it. It's actually part of the first training for consultants. If you have a minute, I can talk to you about that. And quite honestly, between you and me and the wall, what I say is, I don't know if you have enough time either. Because again, I want to be the opposite of pushy, right? I want to put it on her. I don't know. Do you have enough time? I don't know. Do you? Where would you find the time? Is my question for her. Where would you find the time? I can't tell her where to find the time. That's disingenuous and kind of rude of me to think I can help her figure out where to find the time. Oh, we'll just squeeze it in, at the carpool line and blah, blah, right? Whatever. I mean, I know people do that, and I could offer that as an option at some point if she gets stuck, but I'm not going to race to suggestions and solutions, because what comes out, this is another really true thing that I've learned over the years, what comes out of her mouth is what's true for her. If I say it, it's not true for her. But if it's an idea that comes out of her mouth, she's going to own it, and she will do something with it. Okay, so let me go back to sharing my screen.
Betsy, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
When you said, yeah, I don't know if you have the time either, and then what did you say? Something about blocking?
Where would you find the time?
Oh, where would you find the time?
Yeah. And if she's a little bit stuck, I'd say, okay, well, I have a little exercise that's kind of fun, and it's really quick and simple. So do you have a second to pull out your calendar? Let's look at this week, this next 7 days. Do you have a 3 to 4 hour window? Maybe it's over a weekend or a weeknight when you could do a party. Okay, what about the following week? Do you have a night or 2 nights available by any chance that theoretically that you would have open to do a party? What about the week after that? Would you have, another couple of nights, right? And so what I've done now is helped her to see, because, if all we can see is fog and confusion, we're not going to get her anywhere. But if we can show her cold, hard facts on her calendar, it makes it easier for her to go, okay, phew, actually, I can see that I could do parties on certain nights. Now, the really interesting thing is that I think people assume that they have to do parties when other people want them to. What we're trying to help them to understand is that they can set their calendar. And that's a very important thing, is that they still get to control their calendar, even if they're doing this business. Okay, they might say, I'm concerned about the money. And when I say, and so I might have to ask the question, do you mean about how to buy the kit, about paying investment back, that kind of thing? And that might be the answer. And what I would say to her is, the average party is $750 to $800. If I helped you to get your first couple of parties on the calendar before you even bought your kit, you would know that you would have income coming in. Does that kind of strategy help? So when I use the word strategy and I ask her if that would help, she's going to see this as, oh, there's a plan for this. This is not just, here, buy the kit, make me some money, make my sponsor some money and blah, blah, blah. She's got a strategy, right? My sponsor is a strategy. And that's what we would try to do, is if they're afraid about buying the kit and not making any money, we talk to them about booking parties before they even buy the kit. So then I don't know how I'd get bookings. Okay, totally get it. Let's do a little exercise. Do you have a second? Let's do an exercise. And that's when I do the groups of friends. So this is where I say, hey, listen, let's, okay, stop sharing. Okay, let's think about three sets of friends of yours, three groups of friends. What groups of friends come to mind? Is it like people at work, people in your neighborhood, people at the gym? What would your 3 circles of friends be if we had to pick 3? Okay, think of 2 people in each of those 3 circles who you think would be a great party hostess. So what are we doing? We're basically doing a part of getting started call number 1. I just did part number 2. This is part number 3 of the 4 steps from the getting started call number 1. I'm going to show it to you in a minute, because that's a part of our new consultant training that we're going to talk about next week. Okay. And so what I'm just trying to do is a mini version of what we would do when we're starting her anyway, so that she's already thinking strategically about who she would be booking parties with. Okay. So that she's already in the mindset that we have a strategy in place. And then what I would say to her is, okay, of these 2 people in each of these categories, why would each one of them be a good hostess? Why do we want her to be a hostess with me? Why would she be a great hostess? And so now we're helping her to see that she knows more people than she thinks, and that she can be strategic about that. And then you say, okay, what else? My biggest goal, Lori, is to see if this is a fit for you. That's it, right? If we can keep saying that, my biggest goal is to just see if this is even a fit for you. She's going to be way more candid. And then I'm going to keep doing a soft close. I don't like that phrase because it's very salesy. It's very traditional sales, but it's sort of an easy way to look at it. It's like we're trying to see if we can get to the finish line with a shortcut. So would you like to know more, or do you just want to kind of know how to get started? See if she's ready. And at this point, she might now say to me, you know what, this just isn't the right time for me. I really don't think so. And I'll say, you know what, I totally get it. I think you're right. I want to agree with her. I think you're right. Is it okay? But I sense that there's enough interest. Is it okay if I just keep in touch with you? Because maybe down the road it would be good timing, right? Great. I'll keep you in my pipeline, because fun stuff comes up and people's lives change all the time. And maybe this will be a good fit for you down the road. I just let her off the hook. I didn't throw birdseed at her. I'm still tossing seeds at her. Even as I'm allowing her off the hook, she's still coming toward me, because now she really trusts me, not to grab her, not to try to suck her in, like the timeshare people. So does that make sense now? So the last thing I want to do is to show you very quickly. I'm going to share the screen again. Okay. And I'm going to go to one more document. Oh, by the way, I gave you this sponsoring conversation. So that was the outline, but there's actually an interview where you can literally go through verbiage. And what I would do is find a buddy and read through this with like with parts and stuff, like read through it. Okay. A couple times just to get sort of the banter down pat. So there's one last thing I want to show you. It's called outline number 1. And this is what we're now doing on our 8 o'clock call. By the way, Michelle, thank you so much for doing the 7:30 and the 8 o'clock. I cannot thank you enough. There was no way I was going to get back in time, and I just so appreciate it. And I'll talk to you tomorrow to see, who you had.
Okay.
But thank you. So this is actually what we're doing on our 8 o'clock call. This is call number 1. And this is the why, when, who, and what. And the why is all about why are you doing blah, blah, blah. The when, remember we talked about the calendar, pull it out, talk about the next 4 weeks. What can you do next week, the following week, the 3rd week, the 4th week? That's all this is. The who, coming up with 4 or 5 groups, a couple people in each group. Who is most likely to book a party? Why would she be a great hostess? That's the who. And then the what. What do you say in order to get your parties on the calendar? What do you say to people? Let's come up with a set of messaging for you. And so this is you talk about the LP plus 4 and the SWAN and the glam plan at that point. But see, this is the stuff that, am I still sharing? No. So you can see how one thing morphs into the next, and you have to be reading them to see if you've listened well enough to their clues and their cues to see if they're just not interested at all, or if they're ready to just sign up, right? And by signing up, I mean walking them through the call number 1 so that they're getting parties on their calendar. We've got the strategy in place for them to have a successful start. And there is a lot of give and take, even in call number 1. And we'll talk about how you work with that next week. But I want you to see how the sponsoring leads into the new consultant success. It's all a part of the same thing. Now, it's not always linear. It's not always simple like that. Sometimes they sign up and you had no idea they were coming, and then you can't reach them for a week. Sometimes they sign up, they stole a kit, and you never hear from them again. We've all had that. I've had that I don't know how many times, the true and honest kidnappers. But ideally, the more people that you're offering a party to at parties, at the business to at parties, the more you're going to have some of these quick little conversations at the party, a good sponsoring conversation within the next couple of days, and hopefully a getting started call, within 24 hours after that, and you'll get much more comfortable with it over time. But I just wanted you to see the process. So we've gone on too long. This was the longest by far of any of our calls, but it's for a reason, because if you can get really comfortable with this and really understand the process and feel good about it every time you go to a party, you're going to be shocked at what happens to your team. So what ahas did you all have, and what comments? Wendy, did you raise your hand?
No.
I wasn't picking on you. Any ahas, big ahas, little ones?
Betsy, it's Patricia. I think the one I really love, the one aha that I wrote lots of notes, is when you added that question on the about her portion about saying, have you ever done direct sales before, and asking those positive questions, because I feel like a lot of times I get that, oh, I've done that and I don't want to get back into it, but kind of
go to the negative,
leading that conversation to say, well, why did you do it, and what did you enjoy? What were you good at? In kind of changing that mindset of, there were good things and that's why you did them, and, seeing what those things are and kind of using that to like, hey, you remember all the good stuff?
It's true.
I really like that, because I think everyone, a lot of the times you get that negativity, and it's like finding that way to spin it to think about it in a more positive way.
Yeah, and think about it, to me, it's an opportunity to extend a sincere compliment, especially to people who have done this, done a few companies. You must be a very entrepreneurial person. And you just sit there and nod your head because it's a compliment, right? Because if she started several companies, it's because she's got an entrepreneurial bent. She probably just never had quite the right habits, good coaching, and a good product line, right? But a good entrepreneur, and we want to acknowledge, you sound like a really good entrepreneur. Who else? Ahas?
But in that same context, Betsy, I've also talked to people who have been part of these companies that have closed down. So we also have to push the fact that Swarovski is going nowhere. They've been around for, over 100 years, and they have the quality behind them. So you've got to find out what that company is in. It's not necessarily they chose to leave the company, but the company just closed.
Yeah, painful. That's a really good point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great point.
So we're in a good company.
I know. With really great people.
Right.
Well, I think too, for a lot of people, for me, I've been with a couple of different companies, and I do think the product is, obviously it's got to be a good fit. But I also think what a draw is, I know for me, is the camaraderie and having that circle of women, men or women, that are positive. And it's just a different environment from what I came to in corporate, or from what I came from in corporate. So it's different. And if you can make it work, it takes work, but everything does. So if you can make it work, it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. Very good point. Thank you. Who else?
I like your approach of walking away. Betsy?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I like your approach of walking away and giving them space and just kind of coming back, but just, just they want to hear more, but you're just giving them the thought that it's them who want to hear more, without being pushy.
Leave them wanting more.
We didn't
For a
want
few
to.
moments.
I always feel in sales, we've always done that, where you leave when they want to hear more. Don't give them too much.
That's a very good way of putting it. I like that. Right, because then they're inching their way toward you.
It's their choice.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like it. Good. One last one. Anybody else?
Can I say something really quick back to that? Never want to come across as like somebody's needy girlfriend.
That's the truth.
If you're asking yourself, if I come across like a really needy girlfriend right now, then this is not good. This is not good. and honestly, get to a place where you really don't care. I mean, it sounds bad, but it's not going to make or break you if they sign up. Like, if they sign up, you're excited, that's great. But if they don't, it's no big deal. Wasn't the right fit, and it might have saved you a headache down the road anyway. So you really do have to, like, just let go of the outcome and not focus on whether they say yes or no.
That's excellent.
And it will really make a difference. And
yeah,
because people will, I honestly believe people pick up on that energy. If they think you care about them signing up, they're going to step back. They are going to step back.
And that's the epitome of pushy, I think. That's the pushy vibe that people pick up on. That's a great point. Very good point. Whereas if we keep saying to them, let's just see if it's a good fit, it takes the pushy vibe and the needy girlfriend side of it totally out of the picture.
I think it also gives you credibility that you're just confident in what you're doing and what you are presenting to people, and that in and of itself is what you're doing. You're not trying to grab. You're just trying. This is you. You're doing this, and hey, it's here if you want more. But I think it gives you, because it is an energy thing, because people they sense, like they can sense if you're smelling blood or if you're smelling, I mean, it really is an energy thing, what you're putting out. If they feel that you are confident and you're just comfortable with what you're doing versus desperate.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Excellent.
This was so good for me because I have a big party coming up, and I've done well sales wise, but sponsoring is my next move. So this was great.
Excellent. Great. That's great. I love that you said it that way. Sponsoring is my next move. That's great.
Yeah.
I love it. And sounds like you have a big pond to fish in. That's really fun.
I'm very excited. I'm going into a new neighborhood that I don't think anybody's in.
Wow.
So
love it.
I'm excited.
Good. Well, ladies, thank you so much. I apologize that it went so long. I knew this was going to be the longest one of the 4, but I hope it was valuable and gave you some things to think about. I encourage you, find a guinea pig to practice on. Grab a girlfriend, grab somebody on this call to go through the sponsoring conversation and to get used to the cadence of it all and talk about it afterwards. So, because it will make a huge difference if you're used to having the words physically coming out of your mouth. It will change your confidence level at your parties. Okay. All right. Crazy about you guys. I can't wait to see what you're able to do with all of this. I know it's going to be great stuff, and great to see everybody.
Thank you, Betsey.
Thank you, Betsey. Take care. Bye.
Bye.